Oppenheimer is going to be the best film of 2023. And I'm willing to prove it. Nolan's Oppenheimer releases July 21st, and people are hyped. And who can blame them? There are plenty of reasons to be excited about this film. I mean, just look at the cast. I even heard Gary Oldman was in this movie for just a single small scene. And when I look at this cast, I see a large group of actors who all have a history playing the leading role, and yet they're happy here to take on a much smaller role, and I think the reason for that is because they all know this project is going to go down in cinematic history. Speaking of leading roles, Cillian Murphy has finally been cast as the lead in a Nolan movie. I say finally because he's been a supporting character in 5 of Nolan's movies prior to this one. I think the fact that this film is leading into such a character-driven plot will give Murphy the time and space to really shine on a truly global stage. This movie hasn't even released yet, and I don't think it's unfair to say that nobody is going to be surprised when Cillian is nominated for Best Actor at the Oscars. But enough about the cast. If they haven't blown you away yet, maybe Nolan will. It's pretty widely known that Christopher Nolan has always preferred using practical effects over CGI. He's flipped trucks, dropped a plane out of the sky.
Now's not the time for fear. That comes later.
Crashed a plane into a building. And it even sent Matthew McConaughey into a black hole. But surely Nolan isn't going to start a third world war just to get the perfect shot, right?
Tactical nuke incoming!
Of course he is. And quite right too. Just so you get an idea of what it takes to recreate a nuclear explosion, this was the previous record holder for the largest practical explosion in cinematic history. Yeah, massive, right? Nolan's nuke is 367 times larger than that. If you're telling me you're not in the least bit interested to see what that looks like on the big screen, I'm telling you, you're a liar. You might have also noticed that some scenes in this movie are shot in black and white. Well, Nolan has come out and stated that these scenes are set in the objective, whereas those shot in colour are shot from Oppenheimer's subjective and personal experience. This movie will follow Oppenheimer's race to create a weapon that will end World War II. Take that, and Nolan's exploration on the concept of time in his previous works, mix them together, and throw in a pinch of the subjective viewpoint of one of the most guilt-ridden men in human history, and I think Oppenheimer could start to feel more like a thriller in some points than a biopic, bringing audiences to the edge of their seats around the globe. Now, in fairness, saying that Oppenheimer will be the best film of the year is a bit of a tricky statement. It's a purely objective take on a piece of art, something that lives and breathes in the subjective. I might love the movie, and you might hate it. Looking at you, Asteroid City. So what objective metric can we attach to Oppenheimer then? What about its potential to bring people back to the movie theatre, similar to what Top Gun Maverick did last year? What if it can be bigger than itself? What if Oppenheimer can save cinema? Nolan's latest project has a 100-day theatrical window. This means that the only way to watch this movie for the first 100 days from the point of release is to see it in theatres. That means no same-day release on streaming services. In case you've been wondering, that's why Nolan left his long-time partnership with Warner Bros. At the last minute, they released Tenet on streaming services the same day that it hit theatres. And now he's partnered up with Universal. In fact, he's somehow managed to convince them not to release another film until the theatrical window for Oppenheimer has run its course.
And I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Speaking of the box office, this movie has a great chance to break records. And I have one specifically in mind. As it stands just now, the highest grossing biopic of all time is Bohemian Rhapsody, and let's be honest, it's also a musical. Anyway, it's currently the 69th highest grossing movie of all time.
Yeah! You're a goofy girl!
If Nolan's blockbuster was able to break into the top 10, hell, even the top 50, it could inspire any number of filmmakers to take a leap into the unknown and tell some of humanity's greatest stories in a new artistic style. So we've established that Oppenheimer might drive the masses away from their phones and towards the big screen. But why is this a good thing? Why not just embrace the streaming of new films? Because going to the cinema is a win-win. It benefits both the artist and the consumer. The artist, in this case Nolan, gets to showcase his art to the world the exact way he intended it. Filmed on his IMAX cameras, shown on an IMAX screen, to a room full of a captivated audience. And by the way, quick side note, the IMAX film used for Oppenheimer is about 11 miles long and weighs about 600 pounds. That's the same as a grizzly bear. And back to my main point, in the case of the consumer, we get to experience the art in the best way imaginable, the way it was designed to be seen. Don't get me wrong, I can appreciate the convenience of streaming as much as the next person, but I can't help but feel that the pandemic conditioned us to default to the second best option. I remember when I saw Joker for the first time, and when Arthur danced on the taxi at the end of the movie, it evoked such an emotional response from me, and I couldn't explain why, but sat there in that room, experiencing that magic. That's something I'll remember for the rest of my life, and I can't imagine I would have felt the same if I was watching it on my phone, with notifications popping up, people shouting on me from another room, and the colours only as bright as my iPhone 11 would allow. Like most people, I'm aware now, more than ever, with the cost of living being what it is, that going to the cinema is a luxury. But if you're only going to see one movie in theatres this year, I beg you, make it Oppenheimer.